In the 50s and 60s early 60s that I worked for my father for many years, driving tractor for him. You know, it's hard work, and it's a passion and a lifestyle. And there's a certain amount of independence involved in it. You not only have to be good with the soil, but you also have to be good with getting rid of your products. You know, so you become a businessman, and you're growing what you're selling. You know, and that's a pretty remarkable thing. It's a diverse, very diverse occupation to me. I wasn't a farmer, but I worked with farmers most of my young life, and oh, absolutely. You know, the relationships, you know, I had great relationships with people my parents' age, my dad's age, who were customers of his. After reflecting on it years later, I realized they were my teachers. Not only my dad teaching me, but also these guys taught me how to act. These were teachers that were really important to me in business, but also in life. The supply chain's pretty unique. It's changed again a lot. You know, it's when I was younger and working with my father, there were probably 5 to 6 to 7 distributors, manufacturers, from Shell, Chevron, several out of Canada, Cominco, and Phillips 66. These are all people that manufactured nitrogens. And a lot of the phosphates and the potashes came from Canada. Cominco was a Canadian firm. Well, that's all shrunk down into, there's probably 2 left. What we used to do, we used to make orders in the fall and either receive fertilizer early in the spring or real late in the winter. And it'd come in by truck or by rail. And we had storage facilities for it. Buildings, usually with huge bins for dry fertilizer, and then we had large tanks for liquid fertilizers. You blended it by weight. This was all hand done when I was first involved with my dad to make the blends proper for whatever crop they were going on. Yep, and we had applicators too. You drove along at 3 miles an hour and injected it into the ground. And that's what I first started doing when I started working for my father. 12. Our company evolved into an all liquid based thing, and we had these 3-wheel or 4-wheel spreaders with booms that sprayed the fertilizer on top rather than injecting it into the ground. And then we evolved from that into diversifying into dry fertilizer, which we build a building to store it, haul it, weigh it, and apply it. These big spreaders, you may see them out there. They're usually 3-wheel monsters with these huge tires for flotation purposes, and with booms, and the mix of the fertilizer goes into the box on the applicator, and it is what's the right word? It's spread out at the rate per the speed that you're driving, so you get an accurate amount on per acre. Everything's gauged on per acre. This is how much I want on of fertilizer on per acre. It's just a kind of a fan thing, you know, with it's all blown by air. The air is generated and it runs down these hoses or tubes, and then each applicator or fan thing that's on the boom, it hits the back of the fan and spreads it out like this, you know, and it's all engineered so that it goes on accurately. You know, I mean, this is all done pretty much by research of what that plant needs to grow, to produce a crop. The only thing that would affect that is the farmer's biggest nightmare, the weather. that anything can happen. Not try and necessarily be prepared for it, but be able to adjust to it. But you know, that's the lifestyle part of it. The lifestyle of being in ranching or farming is uniquely yours. You know, I mean, it's how you want to deal with it and how much effort you want to put into it. That's pretty cool lifestyle, you know, when you can expect the unexpected and then deal with it. It happens all the time throughout the year or throughout the years of being in that kind of business. It's a pretty cool lifestyle. Well, I tell you, I have to really look back at my father. He taught me how to work, first of all. That didn't mean 8 to 5, you know. Work came when it had to be done. And he taught me how to work, but he also taught me to be optimistic and to be not afraid to deal with the crap that comes your way, no matter whether you're farming, ranching, or building houses. He taught me those things, and I cherish that. Every time you turn a corner and you run into something that you didn't expect to run into, how to deal with that, you know. I mean, how to react and not just say, oh crap, I'm done with this stuff, you know. That's something that I feel like I've been able to do, turn the corner and deal with it. No, he wasn't a hothead, but he was pretty demanding about stuff too, you know. The work ethic part was huge. It's 3 o'clock, it's time to get up. This guy needs to get water on his corn or his hay. Get it done before you quit. Sometimes, you know, you wanted to take the neighbor girl to the drive-in and you really had everything all lined up, and all of a sudden you're not showing up. So there are things, you know, in my youth that used to kind of jerk me off a little bit. But if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it just that way. You know, I really appreciated what my dad and his business did for me. Well, a lot of things, you know. Another thing my dad taught me, he said, give it back to the community. And so I've been involved in a lot of different things in the community, things that I'm passionate about, that I've enjoyed. I spent 25 years on the rodeo board. I spent 20 years booking the music and producing the music at Jazz in the Valley. I spent 27 years on the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame board. I was a producer of the first 4 or 5 cowboy gatherings that took place in Ellensburg. Passionate things that I really enjoyed, but I felt like I was giving back my time as a volunteer to do that. So I've been doing that for quite a while, and it gave me great joy to be involved in those things. There was a period of time after I got out of school. I was in the Army, I went to Vietnam, came back and went to work for my dad and whatnot. But there was a period of time when I traveled when I was in my 20s and did quite a few different things those days. Didn't really please my dad that well, but because he had aspirations for me to be him. But that wasn't working out real well, so I did a lot of traveling. In my mid-20s, after Vietnam, after the Army gig, I needed to get out of here. I needed to find out what was going on in this world. You know, remember what all happened in 1968 with the assassinations of, and I'm at the Tet Offensive in Vietnam, you know. I needed to know what the hell was going on. And so I took off, and much to my dad's dismay, it really pissed him off, you know, that I would leave. At this, what he determined, and I on a different page determined, was a critical time. One for him, that I stay here and be his guy. And to me, it was, I need to get out of here and be my guy. My dad was relentless. Yeah, he got mad, you know, and he was disappointed. I just had this ambition to go out and see what was going on and see what way the wind carried me. Again, walking into something unknown, not with a plan, but with a reaction. That's one of the other things my dad taught me. Well, I was using that at that time. Okay, I'd get in my car and I'd drive to Florida. Whatever happened, happened. But I knew I could handle it. I wasn't prepared to handle it, but I knew I could, whatever happened, I would be able to handle it. It's adventure to me. But I had this thing crying in my heart to go out and find out what's going on here, you know, and it led me into some wonderful experiences. I had some wonderful experiences. One of my first stops on one of my trips, I used to love to drive to Florida in the winter, leave around Thanksgiving and come home around Easter. One time I stopped in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I ran into these guys that they had a store, a trading post actually, and they were guys from from Wenatchee, but I'd met them prior, and I knew they lived in Santa Fe. And well, I spent almost 2 years there with those guys, and I learned how to make jewelry. Then I met my wife. I came back to Washington. I met my wife, Marie, and I was taking her down to meet my friends in Santa Fe. And I ran into this guy. He was an American, but he'd been in Denmark for many years and owned a leather shop in Denmark. And he was touring the United States buying Western Americana stuff to start a new store in Copenhagen, Denmark, a Western Americana store. Cowboy hats, boots, jeans, shirts, scarves, moccasins. And he invited me and my yet-to-be wife, my girlfriend at the time, to come to Copenhagen and be the silversmith in his shop, which I did for 2 years.
What was that like?
It was cool. It was really cool. We rolled in there with this whole Western Americana cowboy hats and cowboy shirts and boots and jeans and Denmark at the time. This is in the very early 70s. And all the youth and young people were wearing cords and big bulky sweaters and round-toed shoes. And all of a sudden, we're coming out of there with America's West. And the store's name was Geronimo's Cadillac. And Michael Martin Murphy wrote a song about Geronimo's Cadillac, and that was he named the store. And it was a great experience, you know, just absolutely being in a completely different culture, in a completely different time, and being some oddballs that were trying to sell him cowboy boots, you know, and I was making kind of Navajo, Southwest Indian jewelry, turquoise, coral, beads, and that sort of thing. Keeping the eyes wide open, you know, and opportunities just kept hitting me. I got into a music thing when I was in Europe, and a friend that lived across the street who was also American guy, and his girlfriend was Danish, and he was in the music business. Well, we took a trip, and we're in London, and they're going to have a big concert at Wembley Stadium. And he talked to some people, and we got jobs in the lighting part of the concert. And that was a great experience in that I went off with some bands, European bands, and did tours with them in Europe. And besides having my little jewelry gig. And then all of a sudden the big call comes that to my friend and I that they want us to come and do lights in Kinshasa, Zaire, the Belgian Congo, for crying out loud. there's going to be a 3-day music festival in front of the Foreman Ali fight in Kinshasa, Zaire, and I'm on board. And we're off to Africa to do this 3-day concert with James Brown and the Pointer Sisters and all these African Zulu dancers, and it was something else.
You met everybody.
Met a lot of people, yeah. And anyway, George Foreman gets cut during sparring practice, and so they wouldn't let us leave. We had to stay, and so there was no word getting back to my girlfriend in Copenhagen. I won't be home for another week or two because this fight hasn't happened yet. They postponed the fight so George could heal up. He healed up. They had the fight, and I had a spotlight right above the ring, which was in the same coliseum, soccer kind of coliseum, that the concerts were in. Well, that's where the ring was built, in the middle of that deal, for the George Foreman Rumble in the Jungle, right above the ring. So it's eyes wide open. Make the corner. Deal with it. You follow me? Yeah. It's this adventure thing, and the thing about the unexpected is going to happen. And when you get there, you've got no plan. You react to that thing. You either deal with it or you don't. Eyes wide open, you know. So that ended. I came back to Washington. I'm making jewelry in a little rented house out here in the north part of the valley. And I get a call from my brother-in-law. He says, you know, I'm sick of working for my father. He was in the optical business. And he says, I'd like to come over and work for your dad, but I'd like you to come and do it with me. And I thought, wow. Well, we'll see how this goes, you know. And anyway, then I got a call from my dad. He says, hey, would you do this? And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And so back in the fertilizer business. A shock. Well, he said, I think it would work best if you were involved in this. He's seeing the fact that he's taking a son-in-law that doesn't know anything about a tractor or dirt or what is a soil test, but he's a good salesman and he's a good person. You come in with some experience in not hiring the job done, but getting the job done. And it worked for a long time. I wasn't married yet. We'd been living together for 3 years. We were talking about getting married, and I kind of thought, you know, why waste all those years you put into that business? And this might be an opportunity for the future, for your family. Are you going to be this nomadic dude that's going everywhere with a little bag full of stones and silver? Or do you want to stay here? Because my wife and I, when we came back, we weren't married again at that point, but when we came back, we didn't know where to go. So we came back to Ellensburg to be here until we decided where we wanted to live. And that just happened to hit at that point. And I thought, you know, why not? See how it goes. And it went really well for about 20 years. The business, we did good. What's cool about our marriage is we love each other a lot, and we're different people, and we both had careers. She was a realtor, and she did really well. And I had my career with my father and my brother-in-law. And one thing that we do now that really kind of helps our relationship is she has a traveling bug, and she goes with two of her sisters and goes here. They've gone to Europe, and they've gone all over Hawaii. They go, and I do the same thing. But we also have trips we go on together. So we do things together, and we do things individually. We take joy in our ability to be individuals too. It's not a cakewalk, that's for sure, but it is, you know, companionship and love, and just throw caution to the wind sometimes, hit the road. And that's kind of what we're trying to do now. Two sons, yeah. There are certain parts I left out. But there are certain parts definitely were the influences were things that I thought were important to teach my kids. Again, I'd say my kids are doing a really good job with their kids, you know, and whenever Grandpa needs to pop in there, I am so happy and pleased to be there, you know. It's kind of the joy that cranks my engine these days. We've got 18 acres of hay here, and it's a 25-acre place that we bought and built this house and planted all these dang trees. And my son, we deeded some land to him, my oldest son. We raise hay. We get 3 cuttings of orchard grass off of this a year. We do all the irrigation. We irrigate twice a day, 7 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night. And we have wheel lines and hand lines. And so you're out there. Yeah, my son and I. But I've been doing it since we built this place, you know.